Husbands of Reddit, did your wife change after marriage? If so, did she change for the better or worse? Story 1. More after we had our daughter than after we got married, but my wife had a dramatic change that blew my world. First off, she became an amazing cook, a great baker, and all-around culinary genius. No matter how empty the cupboard's dinner has been delicious and imaginative, day in and day out since basically conception. She became more artistic and fun-loving, more caring, and more adventurous, my personal favorite. She was the complete package before, and now I count my blessings daily that I have a wife that turned out so amazing. Story 2. Throwaway because we both read it, and I'd feel weird if she saw this. She always told me she loved me because I was her rock, and she's a very emotional, passionate person, and I'm pretty calm and collected. She's really morphed, and it feels our roles have changed. I never saw her as being strong, so the fact that she's become that has blown my mind, and I feel sheepish for underestimating her. We decided we want kids, tried, and it's not happening naturally. We're going her through fertility treatments, and while I blanch or freak out over various treatments and protocols, she endures shoot tons of needles and invasive tests unflinchingly, and then takes the time to comfort and console me when I'm regularly in the dumps over it all. We try to stay positive over it all, but so many times we are faced with infuriating and upsetting situations. We both get upset, but she gets her poker face back fastest, gets me calmed down, gets me laughing and feeling better in general, puts that wall up and protects me like crazy. On top of it all, she's the best auntie to the multitude of kids our friends and family has. No trace of bitterness or anger leaks into the pure love she showers onto the kids in our lives. It seriously tears me apart even more because she'd be so great as a mom. This whole experience of infertility has really exposed parts of her I never knew existed and didn't know existed before we got married, even after 8 years. There's almost nothing out there for infertile dudes like myself, and she softened that so much. I am not romantic or whatever, and she is very practical. I do my best to express the depth I love her. My wife is just a really great person, and our marriage did nothing but reinforce the shoot out of that knowledge to me. Answer: this makes me so sad when there are really good people out there who try so hard to be parents and it just doesn't happen. People who would be really good at it, and although I don't know you, it sounds like you would both be great. Then you see other people who are terrible parents with a handful of children not well cared for. I haven't tried having children yet, but really want them one day. Sometimes I worry about whether we're fertile and what if it never happens. Heart goes out to you, and I wish you the best. Story 3. We dated for 4 years before getting married. In the 6 years since we've been married, my wife has become more self-confident and comfortable with herself. She has successfully changed careers and is accomplishing things she never could have imagined. She's also challenging herself constantly. She listens to podcasts on every subject imaginable. She is even willing to try new foods that she never would have tried when we were first dating. Her intimacy drive is exactly the same as before our marriage. She never really says no, but does inform me when she's on her period or not feeling well. I'm the limiting factor there, as stress and age affects me more than it does her. I tell people that nothing changed when we got married. It was the right decision for us, and we have never had any doubts or regrets. I have come to realize that, in fact, our relationship has changed over the years. We were always affectionate with each other, but that has gotten a lot stronger over the years. We kiss and cuddle before work. We text each other regularly during the day, and in the evening we kiss and cuddle while we share stories about our day. We will spend our lives together. That was not in doubt when we got married, and it's not in doubt now. Story 4. Change? Yes. We dated for 2 years and have been married almost to this septimus. She's almost 5 years younger and is becoming more and more a strong, independent woman. When I first met her, she was in a bad relationship with the typical stereotype asshat. Yelled at her parents, and treated her like shoot, even cheated. So she was a bit jaded, needless to say, when we first hit it off. Very defensive and quick to anger over simple things. Now, though, she is a light in the dark and a smile in a room of frowns. Always happy and full of life. Her parents are a huge part of her life again. Bad times due to last guy. And every day is a new day for her. I cannot for the life of me ever be angry or down around her, and it only seems to grow more every day. Dreams of children, help me, and only wants to spend the rest of her life growing old with me in our happy home with our 2 mutts. Story 5. I am the wife. I know I've changed. for the worse. I have gained a significant amount of weight. This has affected my self-confidence, which has affected our intimacy life. We have been through a great deal during our marriage. Lost 2 infant sons, had a micro-preemie who has some special needs, and his 3 teenage sons came to live with us full-time with no support from their mother. I have become overwhelmed, tense, maybe a little resentful, and I have also discovered what a jackass I am, thanks to this thread. As I'm typing, I realize he has went through everything I have mentioned as well. I guess I'm in a rut, but starting now, I am digging myself out. I'm still crazy about him, and I know he feels the same. We just have to get back into the business of showing each other that. Thanks, Reddit. Answer. Oh, hun, I don't think your behavior qualifies you to be a jackass. Most of the other posts seem to have spouses that changed for no reason. You've lost 2 children, have one with special needs, and are dealing with a difficult ex-wife step family situation. I cannot blame you for feeling how you feel. I suggest seeking some therapy for yourself. It's good that you recognize that there is an issue here, but that you can change it. Also, when was the last time you had time for just you? Time where you could relax, maybe get your hair done, or even just go grab a cup of coffee by yourself? That's important for both you and your family, as it will help you step away for a bit from the feeling of being overwhelmed. It's important that your husband has that time as well, so make sure to discuss finding a balance where you both get time to unwind on your own. Also, when was the last time you two had a date night? Remember to reconnect without the kids. That's very difficult with 4 kids, but very important. Finally, remember that you cannot always control what happens in life, but you can always control how you respond. Story 6. We have both changed tremendous amounts. We were very young when we got married, 18 and 21. We have grown as people, and our outlooks on life have changed and molded as well. Think of how much people change throughout their 20s, and then think of undergoing those changes while being married and raising children. Sometimes it was very difficult, and things were close to falling apart. However, years later, we have realized how much we have helped each other and relied on one another. We have spent the last couple of years redating, and things have only gotten better between us. Story 7. My wife became a rock star after we got married. Not a literal rock star, but she became more than I even could have hoped for in a woman. After a year and a half, we had our first child by accident. See too much red wine and amazing Italian food. After she became a mommy, she changed, but it wasn't a crazy change. She just began to view things differently. She became the woman who I had hoped for but never knew I had. She is hands down the best mom I have ever seen in action. The natural instincts of motherhood took over, along with some good parenting skills imparted to her by my MIOL, and she became what I could have never predicted. After our second child, she really hit her stride and has never looked back. Additionally, despite having kids and having to live at the in-laws' house and my folks' house due to lack of money, our life in the bedroom has never been better. Not only does the aforementioned make her more attractive, but she has also gotten more beautiful with age. I have known her and dated her since high school, so we have seen each other grow as individuals and have seen our relationship grow as a couple. She is still independent, but makes me the man that I am through her love. I don't think there is a formula you can apply to this to get as lucky as I did, but what I can tell Reddit is this: quality guys attract quality girls. There is no 2 ways about it. You want a top-notch, loving, caring, nurturing, complete woman who is secure in herself. Be the male equivalent of that. Be loving, secure, sensitive. Yes, you can do that without sacrificing manliness. Encouraging, selfless, and secure in yourself. Selflessness is the essence of love. When you put someone else's needs above your own, for no purpose other than to genuinely love them, that is love. Also, never stop dating your wife. You fell in love like that, and you will stay in love like that. Went a bit long, but I am my wife's biggest fan. 35M, married 8 years, TL. Just read it, and don't be lazy. This is good stuff. Eat it. Made paragraphs for the grammar Nazis. Answer: too much red wine and amazing Italian food. I've had some passionate nights that began with this very magical combo. Something about veal parm and a nice Chianti really gets my juices flowing. I'll go home and slip into some silk undies, light some candles, put on some Michael Bubble, and just go to town. One of these days, there's going to be a girl there when it happens too. Story 8. I am a female and not a wife, but I witnessed a horrible change after someone I know became a wife. She became pregnant as soon as possible. After her pregnancy, she couldn't keep a job, and it was always someone else's fault. The house they bought before the baby was born was based on 2 full-time salaries, and they told me they had a hard time getting the deal done with the bank. Every time she was jobless, she always said she enjoyed being a housewife. I don't know what she did all day, but that house was gross. And by gross, I mean cats pissing all over the place. The house smelled of it. She kept the cat litters in the same place where they stored food. She even told me once that they pissed all over in that place too. Once I used the toilet there and I wanted to throw the empty roll in the bin. When I opened the bin, I saw used tampons that had a black-greenish color. When I think her husband and father-in-law tried to push her to find a job, she all of a sudden started telling me she sometimes forgot the pill. And yes, within 3 months, she was pregnant again from a child she knew they couldn't afford. Something she told me herself while telling me it was an accident. I never believed it was an accident. The thing with her was, and probably still is, she is pretty, and she was her parents' little blonde princess. She never had to take responsibility for her actions. Her father-in-law was against the marriage. She got the second child just before the crisis. I am not in touch with them anymore. But I recently just wondered how their life must be. The house is underwater for sure, and cost of living has increased considerably the last couple of years. Answer, I too have witnessed a similar situation in my former roommates. She got pregnant as soon as she met him. Every time he pressures her to find a gym, she somehow gets pregnant. They just had their 4th and 5th kid. She can't hold down any part-time work that she does get, and it is always someone else's fault. She claims that she works hard, yet the house is always filthy. I feel sorry for her husband. He has completely given up on life. Story 9. Worse, I've posted this elsewhere. I dated mine for 5 years before proposing. I really thought I knew who she was. 3 years later, she turns into a different person, batshit crazy, and cheats on me. Her own family wouldn't talk to her for a while, so it wasn't just me that saw the change. Example, while we were separated, she violated me trying to get pregnant so that she could get child support. I then got to write the largest check of my life to get rid of her. She basically stole my inheritance from my grandfather. Joke is on her. My life is considerably better since the divorce. I attribute it to the new friends she had made, all single moms, and some mental issues that ran in her family. Story 10. Okay, here we go. I'm a military spouse. My wife is an officer for the Air Force. We were dating for just about 3 years when she got joined, after she was done with officer training school, which is when we got married. She changed the second it happened. It changed for worse and good. Good because she is currently pursuing to become an astronaut. Love her to passing, and I really want to be there to push her and help her lead her dream. Bad because she honestly isn't the same person I fell in love with. She knows this, and times I'm depressed by it. We have seen couples therapy, and it has helped. But I feel that it's been so long since we have gone that it is all going downhill again. Story 11. The point that tends to not get mentioned in these threads is that the husband changes too. It's a common nugget that wives stop putting out their wived, and yet a man gets a beer gut, stops treating his wife like a lover girlfriend, and then gets sour because he never has intimacy anymore. The corollary to wives not wanting intimacy is the nugget that a man brings his wife flowers so infrequently that she thinks he feels guilty about something when he does bring flowers home. Answer, it's true. My wife changed a lot, and not really for the better. I did too. In a lot of relationships, the two people can end up enabling each other to be slobs, particularly if they enjoy that. My advice to someone thinking of getting married is to be very sure that the other person is like you, as whatever qualities they have will become more pronounced over time. Story 12. Yeah, she's changed. When we started dating, she was 17 years old. She's 30 now. People tend to change through that time period. I'm not saying that to be smart ass. I'm just making the point that everyone should expect changes. I have changed also. Teen-year-old me would probably prefer 17-year-old her. But as I have aged, my tastes have changed as she has. There was no abrupt change, if that is the question. Was it for the better? Overall, yes. She is way smarter, more mature, less drama, and she is one of the lucky ones that gets more attractive as she ages. I'm sure this trend doesn't go on forever. She'll peak at some point. Really, the only negative is that she has lost some of her spontaneity. When you're young, you get head while you drive, strip teases for your birthday, wake up to blow jobs, etc. In my case, as we have gotten older, we still have intimacy as much, but it's less spontaneous. I blame kids. It's hard to be spontaneous when you have kids running around the house. And getting roadhead on a family vacation would certainly result in years of counseling for my 2 daughters. Story 13. My wife, well, that's interesting. We met while I was doing my MBA and disowned by my family and blowing my money on a sexy car and booze. Typical college BS. She was a glamorous society girl from a well-known family, which I'm not going to name for privacy's sake. She turned me around. I went from a crappy student to the dean's list, and I felt my drive and my motivation come back. She was my life, and she meant everything. I graduated, I got a military job, and she stayed by my side. But about 9-10 months ago, I felt her get colder. and more distant. I sensed that she was not thrilled with a military life. She was used to vacations in Newport and in France. Of course, I was as well. But what with the whole family don't come here again thing, it wasn't going to happen on a LTC MDR salary. So I resigned my Navy job and moved back to Greenwich into this tiny little condo while I looked for jobs on the bourse. Thanks to her connections and my father, who finally approved of me, I was able to get a director's spot at a major bank. Soon followed promotion after promotion. I did everything I could to make her happy. I spent time with her. I took her sailing, golfing, and riding. We went to the Turks, and soon after that we were graced with a child of our own. I love him, and our relationship has grown even stronger. She's a tiger and she's demanding, but at the end of the day, she gives me everything that I want, and she loves me eternally. Story 14. I'm reading some of these stories with my husband. I've heard variations of them over the years. I guess I'm the kind of female that men feel comfortable talking to. It always makes me feel like a bait and switch when a husband or wife radically changes after marriage, especially in the intimacy area. I got married in my 40s. My husband hadn't been married before either. Neither of us has changed in the 4 years we've been together as far as our relationship goes. We both still complement each other, play, have intimacy, and enjoy our relationship. Maybe not having children and being more mature makes it easier. Maybe because we are both trained therapists, we know what pitfalls to avoid. I'm just grateful we found each other and have a great relationship, and we both sympathize with the suffering in this thread. Story 15. Not a husband technically, but wife in a domestic partnership. My wife and I had an awesome relationship, amazing intimacy, and she really encouraged me to finish school, currently in my senior year at State. We had an apartment near the beach, in our happy little family. We moved more inland with my family, her choice. She started getting really into county music and thinking she is a cowboy, bought a big work truck and wants to go fishing and shooting guns all the time. Then she started to dress more skanky, skin-tight jeans, lots of makeup, bleached her hair, and now she is a cowgirl instead of the butch-type tomboy I fell in love with. Turns out she had been cheating on me for over a year with a mutual guy friend when I finally got her to admit it. TLDR, butch wife became a buckle bunny. Story 16. I debated using a throwaway for this. I've already spoken about this stuff with my wife, but I always figure that when my kids are older, they'll be so tech-savvy, considering how tech-savvy I was relative to my parents, that they might want to peruse their old dad's Reddit posting history someday. So if this is my children, grandchildren, I'm going to discuss my intimacy life with your mother, grandmother, with a bunch of internet strangers. You may want to stop reading here. It can be hard for me to separate what changes are from having kids and what changes are from getting married, since our daughter was born less than 2 months later. We had been dating, living together for years, but had not gotten married due to financial constraints. The baby seemed like a good excuse to do the paperwork, and we got married at City Hall to save money for the baby, so our married no kids interval was very short, and she was very pregnant for the duration of it. Some of the changes have been good. The mindset changes a bit from, can I make this work, to, how do I make this work? You're officially in it for the long haul and act accordingly. The only change that has really bugged me has been the drop-off in libido on her end. We used to be a some kind of intimacy contact once per day kind of couple, and that's been scaled back significantly. We're not one of these once-in-a-blue-moon sexless marriages, but maybe averages out to like twice a week now. The other thing is, she used to make an effort even if she wasn't entirely in the mood. Now she doesn't, and oftentimes I'll even get a flat-out no, which never happened before we got married, had children. Part of it is probably the baby. We got off pretty easy as the baby is not colicky and sleeps well, but even a good baby can really take the wind out of your sails, as we both have full-time careers. Combine that with the month-long trip she makes to Europe without me. A month off is practical for her work schedule, but not mine, to see her family every year, and it can add up to be pretty frustrating. We've tried to introduce and maintain a regular date night recently, and that's been helpful, but we're still a little deficient, and I feel a little taken for granted sometimes. Story 17. My now ex-wife flipped the switch after the honeymoon and became the complete opposite of what she was while we dated. She made sure she was the boss from day one. She insulted me, called me names. It was brutal. I'm now happily married with children and have zero complaints about my now wife. Answer, same here. First wife started screaming in my face and was incredibly abusive. Second wife didn't change attitude, but changed priorities and did not want to be a mother. I'm single dad previously. My final wife, whom I should have waited for, my only wife, is more beautiful, caring, helpful, and loving since we married. I tell her all the time how great she is, how well she takes care of me, and how I appreciate her. I love you, baby. Story 18. I met my wife when she was 18 and we had 2 kids and got married. I fully supported her as she stayed home with kids and went to school. Once she finished school and was able to work, it was almost as if she didn't need me anymore, and our marriage slowly started falling apart. Then I was laid off, and she left me. The horrible part is, once I started working again, she wanted me back. Sounds like scumbag Stacy, but I'd still rather work things out to keep our family together, and I try not to think about it. Story 19. My wife just became lazy, let herself go, and could not be motivated to do anything but shopping, relaxing, doing passive things. After a long time, I'm now divorcing her. It's been enough, and I've tried for many years to pull her into a sustainable lifestyle. I've paid a heavy price and will continue to do so. She'll down spiral. Story 20. My ex-wife changed from a fun-loving girl that completely took my breath away to some random woman that only wanted to stay at home all day on the computer and not even keep house while I worked 2 jobs just to make ends meet, something I'll never really forgive her for. She got what she wanted out of our marriage. I wish I could say the same. Story 21. Throw away for obvious reasons. Married for 7 years. Have 2 little kids now. She doesn't love me anymore. She sure is glad about having a baby daddy helping her with the kids. She gets pissed at the smallest mistakes I make. Says I make her life harder sometimes. Gone are the days of love. Sometimes I am not sure she even likes me anymore. I am responsible. Work on my career while preserving a really good work-life balance. 40-hour week with 6-digit income. Started a side business that doesn't really take away too much of my spare time. Am driven. Love my family, especially the kids, more than anything in the world. Intimacy once every 2 months after I ask for it. She has 0 drive. May have left her if we didn't have kids. Can't imagine actually doing it and leaving the kids. Answer. As a child of an unhappy, mentally abusive marriage, my opinion is that you aren't doing your kids any favors. I still get mad when I remember my mom saying how they stayed together for us kids. Even if you're not actively fighting all the time, kids can tell. I still have issues in my own marriage from my fear of being treated like my mom was. I don't think it's healthy. Just my opinion. Again, good luck. Story 22. I am the wife, estranged wife. I changed after I got married, and not for the better. I didn't realize that my husband had a very low self-image, that he was passive-aggressive, that he allowed everyone to walk all over him. I am a dominant woman and raised my son by myself, worked in a male-dominant trade, and am independent. My husband allowed me to walk all over him and talk to him like crap. I was very good to him in the very beginning, but when I caught him chatting it up with females in chat rooms, any respect I ever had for him was gone. That opened the door for me to use him like a doormat. I am not proud that I am this way, and this is exactly why I am not in a relationship now. I haven't been for a couple of years, and I plan to stay single. Answer. The fact that you recognize this means you have quality. Edit. Relax, people. I didn't say this makes her a quality person. I said recognizing her flaw and dealing with it so as not to hurt others is a good quality, and she is not worthless because of this flaw. If we are defined by our flaws, we are all in trouble. At least she's doing something about it. Story 23. My wife had changed a lot. She used to be a shy, quiet girl who kept her opinions to herself and never confronted anyone. Now she is outgoing and very opinionated, who even can confront her mother, who she has a strained relationship with. As a bonus, my wife has changed me for the better as well. We've grown together as a couple and changed to both become better people. I hope she reads this because she means so much to me. Story 24. Every day after we married, she got less and less like my wife. 2.5 years later, she cheated on me with a woman, long story, and now says she's a lesbian. So it's hard to say. She was worse to me, but pretty sure she thought she was better to herself, which shows how much of a selfish meanie she really is. Story 25. There was suddenly no restriction on the amount of shoot she could give me. Before we were married, if she started yelling at me, I'd calmly tell her it wasn't cool and she'd stop. After marriage, she is a regular spaz, and when I tell her to stop yelling, she screams, "I'm not yelling. You do not know what yelling is," because apparently only she knows what yelling is. On the flip side of things, I hold absolutely no farts in anymore. I have lost the will and the ability. Story 26. Much better. She was very gripey and could be opinionated to the point of, "You're wrong if you like anything I don't like." In the time since we've been married, she's loosened up a lot. She's not a griper anymore. We talked about her opinionated stances. She's got thoughts and interests in things, but is now open to people disagreeing with her. She's also absorbed my sense of humor. She's funnier than me now, which is a lot because funny is one of my identifying traits. Story 27. Another divorce guy here. My now ex-wife had a complete personality change. The first year and a half, she was sweet, attentive, and loving. Although we had intimacy every month to a month and a half, at the 1.5 mark, she suddenly went into an intimacy frenzy, and we had so much intimacy on her schedule that it started to feel like a chore. I consider myself as someone with a fairly high libido, and hers rocketed past me. We bought a house, and then she started having a phone affair with a stranger, whom I found out she was trying to meet. Let's just say that things went downhill from there. And as near as I can tell, she had 4 to 5 different partners before we separated. She was undoubtedly the biggest mistake of my life, but she didn't seem that way when we dated or that 1.5 after we married. Nut job, which for her apparently means something entirely different. Story 28. After our wedding and reception and everything was done for the night, my wife, friends, and I went to a small tavern. Most people knew my family, so we got plenty of congratulations. One man, as we were leaving, said it all changes. He was totally right. Story 29. A few weeks ago, my wife confided in me that the sound of me chewing turns her on. Apparently, my lips smack a little despite my best efforts, and she finds this irresistible. I guess this is for the best. So fast forward a few weeks, we're laying in bed, and I decide I shall initiate frisky times. I scoot up behind her while she is on her phone, and then quietly smack my lips ever so slightly near the back of her head. We both had a really good laugh about that one, and then some intimacy. Story 30. She did, yes. But it is completely natural. You will change as well. Any huge life moment will change someone, and marriage is certainly no exception. You will learn and grow together, and eventually find yourself looking back at the beginning of your relationship, laughing about how you used to be. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. Story 31. Major change here. For the worse. Our relationship was amazing when we were just dating. We dated for 2 years before getting engaged. Then 1 year later, we were married. The signs of our marriage trouble started on our wedding day. I danced with her once and maybe talked to her for like 5 minutes at the wedding reception before she took off and chatted with some of her friends' family. Our reception was a look-at-me type deal for my wife. Oh, I have a husband? I blew that off. We had a great time on our honeymoon cruise. Intimacy life was still good. We came home and she was a good wife. After a few months of being married, she wanted a baby. I wanted to wait 2 years, but that started an argument. Of course, she got what she wanted. She was pregnant, and we were only married 8 months. During pregnancy, I didn't exist. She never asked for my input on anything. We might have had intimacy twice. After the baby was born, she went into depression, eventually snapped out of it, and was getting back to normal again. Life was good for a couple of years until she wanted another baby. Fast forward to now. We have 2 children. This is the chain of command of my wife. Kids, her, me. Sometimes I think she puts her family before me. She ignores my advice and calls her parents to get their opinion, and usually takes their advice. She is a teacher, and off during the summer, kids still go to daycare, and the house is a wreck. I might get a cooked meal 1 night a week. She asked if we could get a maid. I laughed. I took a day off from work when she was working and had the entire house clean in less than 3 hours to show her it could be done. If I don't do laundry, dishes, etc., it won't get done. Let's not even get into our intimacy life. It doesn't exist. Once every 2 to 3 months. When it happens, it's extremely boring, and she never initiates. Every time I want to have the intimacy talk, it turns into an argument, so I don't bring it up. I snooped through her text messages. Wrong, I know. And her best friend, whose husband cheated on her in the past, told her that she needs to start having intimacy with her husband because, in her words, if he doesn't get it from you, he'll get it from somewhere. Hasn't changed anything. Edit. Blowjobs slowed down when she said, I do. Stopped after having our first child because she's a mother now. She forgot how to be a wife. Story 32. She gained 100 pounds, quit making any effort to put on clothes that weren't ratty pajamas. Unless we were going to be seeing other people, she still had it in her to get cleaned up and look nice for strangers, but apparently not for me at any point. Stopped having any interest in intimacy and became sort of a mega meanie who would whine about not having any friends, and then every time she'd meet someone new, she'd spend 20 minutes afterwards talking to me about everything that's wrong with them. She's an undergrad, so she's obviously a stupid sorority cunt like all of them. She said the word bro, blah blah, fudge blah, million other stupid little things. So anyway, not so great, we are divorced. Story 33. My wife is awesome. We dated long distance for 7 years, then finally tied the knot. Since then, 1.5 years, our relationship has only gotten better. We communicate better in person. We fight better. Yes, everyone fights. The key is to turn it into a positive change in the relationship. And holy Jesus Christ, do we ever fudge better. I love my wife. Story 34. I think it's safe to say that we both have changed since we got married 7 years ago, together for 13. Not in a bad way, though. When you spend that much time with someone, you will have an affect on each other's personalities, habits, etc. You grow together and experience life together, and that will, hopefully, change both of you into a strong and healthy couple. If you continue being her best friend as well as lover, you will have a long, happy marriage. Good luck. Story 35. Not necessarily after we got married, but certainly when her biological clock started ticking. After she hit about 27, her life started to revolve around getting pregnant. And it wasn't just baby rabies. She wanted a full transformation. From silly kids who waste their time playing video games and watching movies, to super serious grown-ups who have grown-up friends over for wine and Scrabble nights. I wasn't on board for that plan, so she fudged my best friend and moved in with him instead. 3 weeks after she moved in, I noticed his WoW account was canceled. I feel sorry for you, but you deserve it, bro. Story 36. I asked my husband, and he said, I typed as fast as I could here. Your name's Lunchy Lady on there, right? Well, tell them you worked at a department store before we got married. So I felt pretty badass when after our wedding, I got to start fudge a lunch lady. Wait, does that sound weird? Do they know what you look like? Or do they just figure you're like a standard lunch lady type? Laughs, I bet they think you're a 300-pound, meatloaf-shaped, mole-having, hairnet-wearing psycho, whatever. I fudge the lunch lady. I love the lunch lady. Story 37. I do not personally know the person, but this is a story my dad likes to tell people, mostly because I asked them to. My dad knew a guy from Lindsborg, where he is originally from. The said man, let's call him Bob, met his wife while they were in high school and then got married soon after, which was normal for the time since it was the late 50s or early 60s. Now they had been together for a very long time and had settled down and started a family. Well, sometime during their 25 years of marriage, Bob decided that he was going to fully restore a 1953 Corvette, which was pretty beaten up, but Bob got it for a good deal. Bob does of all the restoration work himself, because this was still during a time where people knew how to do work on cars themselves. The only thing he didn't do was the paint job, but he went with the classic Chevy red look on the cars. Bob treated his vet like a princess, took her out only once or twice a month, and when he did, he fully detailed the car. We're talking a good scrub down, a waxing, and then vacuuming his car out. After everything was said and done, he put the cover back on her to protect her from the elements and praying eyes of people from out of town. Well, sometime during the 25 years of marriage, the wife just snapped, and no one never really knew why, and obviously no one will ever know. But Bob and his wife ended up wanting a divorce, and as well all know from just here, say they can be quite brutal. They were splitting up a lot of the assets, and one day in court, the wife says that she wants half of what Bob's Corvette is worth. She also knows how valuable the car is, so she asked the judge to make sure that Bob sells his car to a dealership. So Bob, who is already dealing with all this stress, is forced to sell his pride and joy, his baby that he restored from the frame up. Bob takes his vet to a dealership, sells it, and then returns and gives half of the money to his ex-wife. He tries to go back to sell it, but the car was quickly bought up once it had hit the lot. Dr. Man meets wife in high school. Wife snaps and makes him sell his 53's Corvette that he fully restored by hand. We cohabited for 7 years. Then she decided a meth addict 700 miles away that used PUA tactics on her was preferable to me. Managed to keep her from fudge up her life with him and took her back. We got married because she realized how well we fit together and that she doesn't fit with just anyone. That was March 2011. In May, she decided another winter was preferable to me. A 24-year-old kid that lives with his dad, works 2 days a week because he can't keep a job due to his personality, and has no real future because of his upbringing, and can't support her if he wanted to. She changed twice and changed back the first time when she realized what she almost fudged up. She still hasn't pulled her head out of her jerk with this kid, but since he has stalked all the women he has worked with, none of his co-workers can stand him, and he isn't getting fired from his home VFD because his dad is on the department and they are short on people. It isn't going to be long before she wakes up and tries to get rid of this clingy jerk. I know 3 of the women he stalked, and they all say the same things about him, about my wife. She is going to be 31 next month. She had never dated when I met her 10 years ago, never even been kissed, and went to prom with her female friends. She has never had a bad relationship because I always treated her well, allowed her all the freedom she wanted, and supported her through college, EMT firefighter training, and whatever else she wanted to do. She has never had to live on her own because even while she is with this punk jerk kid, her parents are letting them stay in one of the cabins they own. She is naive, inexperienced, and thus unappreciative of what a rarity our relationship was. No fighting, no abuse, effective communication, logical reasoning when we disagreed, and while we didn't make a ton of money, we almost always had enough to live and do what we wanted. So she has had an easy life compared to most, and hasn't been hurt, used, mistreated, or fudged over. All of that will change this year. Soon she will find herself alone and wondering why nobody wants her but clingy assholes like this kid. She is very susceptible to PUA tactics because she has a poor self-image and lacks self-esteem, despite being well-educated, very intelligent, and usually logical and reasonable. I find many women are like that, and they end up getting used by the jerks who pull them out of good relationships for a piece of jerk. She is no different. Despite her intellect, she can still be swayed by a guy saying the right things to her. Life is hard. Some people make it hard for themselves. I learned this lesson when I was 16 with my first girlfriend, and now she has to learn it the hard way. She is 31, so she doesn't have the luxury of being a teenager with no responsibilities, and this little excursion into the school of hard knocks is already fudge over her professional career. I give it 2 more months at most, and she will come crying back to me. The chances I will take her back are slim, because I would want to know for sure that she has learned her lesson, that the grass isn't greener over there, it's more of a dirt lot. I'm not the most wonderful guy on the planet, but each and every woman I have had do this to me has tried to come back after she realizes how much better I treat them than the other guys they meet. Story 39. Yes, but it took a long time. Before marriage, my wife had a nicer personality. Now, 7 years later, and after 2 kids, she is more easily angered and more prone to shout when she is angry. Some of it is my own fault. I have always been that way, so she just picked it up off me. And some is just due to the natural irritations that life, marriage, and increasing age offers. Story 40. Mine changed for the worse. I got married way too young, and that was part of the problem. The other part of the problem was how she treated her family. I didn't look at that when we were dating, and when you get married, you become a family. Duh. She was always rude, mean, and just unpleasant to her family. She went from the most amazing girlfriend of 3 years to the most verbally and physically abusive person I know. Now we're getting divorced after 3 years of an absolutely miserable marriage. I'm not saying I didn't change for the worse as well. The whole practice marriage has definitely taught me some things about what to look for in a compatible partner. Story 41. This is not my marriage. Church, mine is good going on 5 years. But when I lived in Korea, I did some private tutoring for some kids. The mother of the boys always complained about her husband. She said he had changed from being overly chivalrous to just expecting her to have things done for him. She disliked him so much. Once she even said he hit her. So she was waiting for the boys to finish high school and then divorce him. I don't know why she vented everything to me. I guess maybe because I was outside the social circle, and who was I going to tell? Sad thing was, both the boys thought they had the best parents who were a great couple. Story 42. She changed, and it was definitely not for the better. About to be 24 and divorced. Marriage is not easy, so take it from experience. Don't rush into it. Make sure the person is really who they say they are, and make sure you absolutely want to spend the rest of your lives with each other. Ask yourself this question. Can you live without her? If you hesitate or even have to think a little bit about it, move on. Don't drag it out for years and have it turn ugly. Story 43. Changed for the worse. Lasted only a year before we got a divorce and went our separate ways, never to interact ever again. By far, the best thing to have ever happened in my life. I learned so much from that experience and am by far a much better man from it. Story 44. I'm going to just come out, say it. No throwaways. Nothing. My wife slowly changed for the worse. She began drinking heavily, not wanting to be as social, not talking to me about what was on her mind, and generally pushing me away. I have been trying for some time to get her to open back up, but she seems to have developed a general mistrust of everyone outside of her side of the family. She believes that people will always use information against her. She does not talk to friends as much as she used to. She believes that she has no real friends, and she does very little to take care of herself. I wish I could have back the woman with whom I fell in love. I know she's in there somewhere. We've both been seeing a counselor, but I think that she's even becoming resistant to advice from the professional. We have also become less physically intimate over time. It's getting to the point where whenever I try to initiate, she tells me that she's not there or not feeling it today. We used to have intimacy almost every day, and we did that for the first few years of our relationship. I'm not sure what happened. Hell, we did not even have intimacy on our wedding night. I'll stop now. Thanks for letting me write that out, Reddit. Story 45. Wife of 4 years here. I have changed so much since we got married. When we met, I had just turned 18. I was naive, immature, depressed, completely lacked self-confidence, and had a very bad image of men due to some bad experiences and sexist fundamentalist parents. I worried frequently about this very thing because I knew as I struggled with these issues every day that I would grow to be more confident, independent, and assertive. I worried because I relied on my SO so much and was afraid that some part of him needed to be a white knight and wouldn't be able to handle me if I became independent. Well, I was right. I have changed radically and continue to do so. I am now an atheist, feminist, confident, much less socially awkward, have many hobbies of my own, am in a leadership position, have found a new focus in life, and am changing careers, etc. I have also become much more opinionated, and my assertiveness sometimes comes across badly. But aside from that, which we are working on, he has been great, incredibly supportive through it all. He has no issues at all with my confidence and independence and continues to encourage me to grow. I think he is proud for the most part of how I have changed. TLDR. People change. It's called personal growth. If you're lucky, you'll grow together rather than apart. Story 46. I am happy to read that there are so many happily married Redditors out there. I'm getting married in February, and I have this secret fear that I'll unknowingly end up being one of those wives my husband complains bitterly about online. Realistically, I don't think that will happen since we've been together for so long already. And I don't think I'm a naggy, lazy meanie or anything, but it just seems like so many people on the internet are stuck in loveless marriages with women they dislike. Story 47. Yes, after marriage, more annoying, more nagging. For everything if you don't fight it to the passing and quash the thought, I failed to do this enough. More effort, more kids, less intimacy, less money, less friends, less social. After divorce, more annoying, easier to ignore, less effort, less kids, more intimacy elsewhere, less money from divorce, less friends of the type I was used to, but more content, more social. Story 48. It's important to remember that people will change over time no matter what, and that marriage is a long time. Your wife will inevitably change. It's important to make sure that you have a strong foundation and sets of shared interests, and that you have sources of happiness that are not dependent on each other. But no, for us, nothing about her changed immediately after the wedding. I mean, she's changed about as much in the past 3 years of marriage as she did in the 2 years I knew her before we were married, and she'll continue to change, as will I. Story 49. Marriage is a mental and intimacy prison. These little twinkle-eyed imbeciles become obsessed, this ridiculous vision of a fairy tale life with their little Tom and repugnant brats for offspring without considering the harsh reality. The whore slips into a white dress that won't fit in 5 months, whilst the groom leads an adult worker to bed in a cheap motel after work. Meanwhile, both suffer through the motions of marriage, unwilling to admit that they're miserable. Marriage and by extent love are two of the most vile and destructive forces around. Story 50. Better. She only wants foot rubs 3 nights a week instead of 6. Intimacy got better too. Frequency, duration, occasions, positions, then kids. Didn't think sleep was as important as intimacy until kids. Now I like sleep a lot. Intimacy is still good too, but sleep? Gonna take a nap right now. Story 51. I wouldn't say changed, but evolved. We got married at 19. And we're still young and growing as people. We've done that growing together, and this year makes number 10. We have an 8-month-old son, and I couldn't imagine life without her. We both have gone from students to adults with careers. She is more confident, but the traits that made me fall in love with her are the same now as they were 10 years ago. She is genuinely the nicest person I've ever met. I'm blunt, sarcastic, and I try every day to be a better person because I see the impact she has on people around me. She is going through some health issues right now, and anytime I think about what things would be like without her, it is tough not to break down. Story 52. We weren't married, but we're pretty much common law married. We were together for 5 years and married for 2. She changed. She figured out what she wanted and really found what made her happy. I tried to be as supportive as possible and basically helped her in anything and everything she wanted. Unfortunately, I didn't take care of myself or the actual relationship. We became just best friends, not a couple. Woke up one day and she was a completely different person. A person that wasn't in love with the person I became. Story 53. Worse, though, looking back, there were plenty of warning signs for some issues that should have been deal breakers on their own. It's happened in stages now that we're in counseling. It seems that my wife is sort of using the age of our kids as an excuse. We had a really hard time when child 1 was around the same age as child 2 is now, but there are so many problems beyond the kids. With the birth of child 1, They both had some health problems initially, but it resulted in her getting more into health and nutrition. However, that included holistic care, homeopathics, alternative vaccine schedule, etc. For child 2, she insisted on a home birth and is now completely anti-vaccine, uses essential oils, and sees a chiropractor for her and the kids. She's always been terrible with money, not having much growing up, which I now see is not a valid excuse, especially 11 years later. She is currently finding herself and starting a new career, having quit a stable job that had a nice salary and great benefits. The new job pays better, but she doesn't really have anything in writing and no guarantee beyond a year. So she's stepped up her spending now that she feels she doesn't need to show as much restraint. She's out all the time, meetings and mixers in the evenings, so I take care of the kids most of the time. She says she's doing it all for the kids, but her spending habits and time away leaves very little for anybody but herself. The things that have stayed relatively the same involve her being low energy, not doing chores, I do 9 of everything around the house, bad temper, sometimes throws things, uses foul language in front of the kids, etc. She even tried to forbid me from talking to my parents about our problems. All stellar qualities I know, so the bad stuff didn't get better, and the okay stuff just got worse. Before we got married, she was an au pair, and I thought she would be a great parent. I wouldn't trade the kids for anything. They mean everything to me. But we were obviously very different people, and I must have been lonely with poor self-worth. I've pretty much given up all friends and hobbies due to lack of time and money. All of our friends are really her friends. Most are just as crazy as she is. Looking at Facebook usually just makes me sick. I've finally had enough and may have found my balls. I think I owe it to the kids to get them the care they deserve, and for them to see a truly happy father who has more stability. She pretty much told the marriage counselor that she's not going to change, though really that's what she's been doing. She just wants me to change along with her. The counselor said, in nicer words, that if we were both like her, it would be a complete disaster. Answer: it's really sad, but it sounds like you want to do what's right for your kids. I have seen this only once before. A guy I worked with has a teenage daughter. One day he comes home, all his wife's stuff is gone. She's moved in with some guy and wants nothing to do with her now ex-husband or her daughter. Sometimes it's like a snapping twig, takes a second to snap, and it's never the same again. Story 54. She didn't change, she improved. She went from fudge amazing to super fudge amazing. We've been married for 16 years and she continues to become this most incredible person that I have no earthly right to have. She was and has become, even more so, someone that I am constantly in awe of. In every way. Smart, kind, passionate, funny, and so very compassionate. And I get to have intimacy with her often. She is simply the most incredible human being I have ever met. I don't deserve her. I'm not good enough for her, and it breaks my heart that I am constantly letting her down. Story 55. Not married, engaged. At times she seems to ignore the fact that she's wearing a 10,000 ring and gives me shoot about when we're going to get married because she sees people on a Facebook who she doesn't even talk to getting married. I think the whole wedding thing is for the birds, but that's just me. I intend on buying a Honda Shadow 500 this fall/winter and fixing it up for the spring and summer of next year. Every time I mention it, I get the wedding talk. It's bad enough I'm trying to reenact my Sons of Anarchy fantasy on a Honda Shadow, then I get a massive side helping of guilt. Bottom line, she is a bit spoiled and entitled, but I love her anyway. Answer: hi, gay, recently married male after 6 years of engagement. I'm sorry, but this just sounds terribly unequal. You cough up for an elaborate ring. I made mine, BTO, out of gold chemically scavenged from old computer parts and art. You've had a dream of going on an awesome sounding, life-enriching trip on a motorcycle you bought used and repaired. Sounds like a bloody fantastic trip, mate. I don't honestly know why she's not supporting you on this. Make it clear it is very important to you, and you've already spent a great deal of funds on her happiness. Ergo, she should support you on yours. As a compromise, tell her you'll quite happily fund her dream if she'll do the same for yours. That's only fair, right? Have an epic trip, mate. Take some photos for me. I'd love to see your baby once she's restored. Story 56. The song Fluorescent Adolescent instantly pops into my mind when it comes to women and marriage. And because of that, I'm heavily put off by the notion in that song. It was either they didn't feel the same way about me, or I wouldn't feel the same way about them. Such an unhappy exchange. I'm probably too young to understand love or marriage, so I will probably delve into philandering a bit more until I do. On a side note, it always makes me happy to hear such happy stories of couples that as strong, if not stronger than the day they met. It fills me with such hope. Story 57. Married 5 years, been together 10, and we haven't really changed at all. Even with a little one in the mix, it has been like the day we started dating, although with less intimacy. But that is expected, and it is not from lack of desire, but lack of alone time. Happiest 10 years of my life.